Hello grade 8s, I hope you are all well. Today we're going to look at a few different things. In your textbook, the Platinum textbook, that is on page 13. But for this video, I'm going to work out of the books that we binded for you and gave to you when you got here at school. In that book, I'm on page 9, at the bottom of page 9. Okay, so you can open that book. And you are more than welcome to make extra notes on that binded book that we gave you because it's yours. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to look at is ratios and rates. Now, what is the difference between ratios and rates? A ratio is a comparison of two quantities of the same type. A comparison of two quantities of the same type. Whereas a rate is a comparison of two different types of measurements. Okay, so let's look at the examples here. Question A, they ask us to simplify that. Now there's no word sum here, but all of them is the same. So this is an example of a ratio. Okay, so to write that ratio in its simplest form, I have to go find something that will divide into all three of those things. I hope you agree with me that that is the number 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now this is in its simplest form now. There's nothing else that can divide into 2, 5, and 4 without a remainder. Okay, let's look at question B. They tell us that a tap leaks 50 milliliters of water per minute. Milliliters, in other words, milliliters of water. So I'm working here with water per minute. I'm working here with water and minutes. It's different types of measurements, all right? So in this case, this is an example of a rate. So to answer this question, we need to know how many minutes is there in one day. Now we know that there is 60 minutes in an hour, and we know that there is 24 hours in a day. Therefore, if I say 24 times 60, I will get the answer of how many minutes there is in a day. And that is 1,440 minutes in one day. So if I take that amount and I multiply it with 50 milliliters of water, because 50 milliliters of water is wasted per minute, then I will get an answer of 72,000 milliliters per day of water that's wasted. All right. Now, I forgot to say, you don't have to rewrite this in your working books because it is in that binded book that we gave you. But if you want more examples, you can also take a look on page 13 in the Platinum textbook. If you have a textbook, there is more examples of ratios and rates. All right, boys, I would also like us to look at the following. You also have to be able to divide something in a ratio. You will also have to be able to increase and decrease something in a specific ratio. Now, what is the difference and how do I do this? Okay, so let's look at question C. They tell us at question C to divide 120 in the ratio 2 to 3. Now, whenever you hear the word divide, you must know that you have to go look at all the parts together. Okay, so let's look at the total. 2 plus 3, the total of that ratio. 2 plus 3 gives me a total of 5. All right, so let's answer this question now. I have to divide 120 in the ratio 2 to 3. And we know that there is a total parts of 5. So the one person will get 2 of the 5 parts, while the other person will get 3 of the 5 parts. Okay, so how much is that? Now we have to go work out what is 2/5 of 120. So 2/5 of means I should multiply of 120 and that you can work out with your calculator gives you an answer of 48. The other one got 3/5 of 120. So 3/5 of means multiply of 120, and that you can work out with your calculator gives me an answer of 72. So there you divided 120 into the ratio 2:3. At question D, they ask us to increase 120 in the ratio 2:3. Now, if you increase something, it gets bigger. I hope you agree with me. Now, when they ask us to increase or decrease, guys, then we do not add the parts together. We don't do that. We simply look at the first word. If they ask us to increase, it must get bigger, all right? And which one is bigger, the 2 or the 3? I hope you agree that it's the 3. So, let's do this. 3, I put on top as my numerator, and 2 I put in the bottom as my denominator, all right? Because 3 is bigger and I want to increase. So there's your fraction of 120 it means I should multiply of 120, and that gives me an answer, if you work it out with your calculator, of 180. And I hope you all agree that 120 increased to 180. So we are correct. Now they ask us to decrease 120. And if I decrease something, it gets less. Now we do not add the parts here. Because we want to decrease, I look at this smallest part here. And the smallest part will then be my numerator, the one on top. Okay, so I say 2/3 of 120. Of means I should multiply of 120. And that, if you work it out with your calculator, gives me an answer of 80. And yes, it did increase from 120 to 80. Okay, these 3 things you must be able to do. Make sure you understand the difference between when I divide something in a ratio, when I increase something in a ratio, and when I decrease something in a ratio. That is important. Alright, another thing that I would like us to look at is speed, distance, and time. I hope all of you know this triangle. Distance we always write at the top, speed at the left, and time at the right. Although speed and time may switch places, that doesn't matter. But okay, how do I use this triangle? So whenever I would like to work out the distance, so for example, they give us information about the speed and the time, but we're looking for the distance, then the formula will be D is equal to speed times time. Say for instance, we want to work out speed. They give us information about distance and time, we have to work out speed. Then the formula will be distance divided by time. Say for instance, we want to work out time. In other words, they give us information about the distance and the speed of something. We have to work out how long it took. Then the formula will be distance divided by speed. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this already in the primary school. Okay, so let's look at an example here. They tell us that a car drives 50 kilometers in 30 minutes. And then they ask us at what speed does he drive. So we are going to use this formula. I hope you all agree. Because we want to work out speed. They give us the distance, it's 50 kilometers, and they give us the time. Okay, but here is something that you must remember. When I work with distance, speed, and time, the distance must always be in kilometers, the speed in kilometers per hour, and the time in hours. Okay, so you all agree that we're going to use this formula, S is equal to distance divided by time, and we know that the distance is 50, but now the time. I cannot insert 30 as the time because it has to be in hours. Now they tell us 30 minutes, and we know 30 minutes is how many hours? I hope you all know that it's a half an hour. Now if you put 0,5 there, it's also the same. Okay, now how do I divide with fractions? Remember, 50 divided by a half is the same as if I write it just next to one another, 50 divided by a half. And if I work with fractions and you do this without a calculator, then I can say 50 over 1, the division changed to a multiplication, and then I take the reciprocal. In other words, that 1 and 2 swap places. And then you multiply the top ones and you multiply the bottom ones and you simplify, and that gives me 100 kilometers per hour. Okay. That is it for today. You do not have to copy this in your book, in your working book. You don't have to write this down. You may take a look at page 13 in your textbook for more examples. And then tomorrow we will continue with discount and VATs, as well as profit and loss. And then only tomorrow you're going to get an exercise to do. Okay, I hope you have a nice day. And please ask your teacher, your math teacher, questions if you are uncertain of something.